There is a specific quality to the quiet when the house empties. It is not the peaceful quiet of a Sunday morning when everyone is still in bed. It is not the pleasant quiet of an evening to yourself. It is something else, something that catches you off guard. A quality of silence that feels heavier than you expected or different from what you expected, and that you were not prepared for because nobody really warned you about it. The empty nest stage is talked about, but it gets talked about in terms of your children, how they are settling, whether they are coping, whether you did enough to prepare them. What gets far less attention is what is happening for you, not as a parent, as a person. And that's what I want to talk about today. My name is Clare Deacon. I am a positive psychology and nervous system expert, and this is the Happya Life podcast. I want to name the feeling before I explain it because the feeling matters. The house empties, you knew it was coming. You may have been looking forward to it in some ways, the freedom, the space, the quieter life, the fuller fridge. And then it arrives and it is not quite what you expected. There is the quiet, and in the quiet, something surfaces that is harder to name. For some women, it is loneliness, but not the kind that is solved by having people around. You can be surrounded by people and still feel it. It is more like a particular kind of unseenness, a sense that the role that made you visible, that gave you a daily reason to show up, has shifted. And you are not sure yet what comes next. For some, it is something closer to disorientation. The structure of the days has changed. The needs that organized your time are gone. And the space where those needs were, the space that is now quiet, surfaces something you were not expecting. You are not entirely sure what you want to put in it. And underneath both of those, often is a question that the empty nest stage has a tendency to ask very directly. Who are you when you are not primarily someone's mother? Question is not a crisis, but it is a real question and it deserves a real answer. Here is what the empty nest stage actually is beyond the practical change in your household. For many women, it is the first time in years, possibly decades, that they have had significant space that is not immediately claimed by someone else's needs. And that sounds like freedom. In some ways, it is freedom. But space, when it arrives after years of being filled with the needs of others, is not automatically comfortable. It can be disorientating because the skills most used during the years of intensive parenting, attentiveness to others, responsiveness, giving, being needed, are not the same skills needed for the question this stage is asking. This stage is asking, what do you want? And for a lot of women, the honest answer is, I'm not entirely sure anymore. Not because they are lost, but because the work of knowing what you want, separate from what others need from you, is work that often gets significantly deferred during the parenting years. You become very skilled at knowing what everyone else needs. You become less practiced at asking what you need and less confident that the answers matter. The quiet is asking you to practice that again, and it feels uncomfortable. Not because it is wrong, but because it is unfamiliar. Your nervous system is involved here too. For years, it has been regulated around a particular kind of purpose, a particular structure, a particular daily orientation towards the needs of your children. When that changes, the system takes time to recalibrate. The low level agitation or flatness or anxiety that some women feel in the empty nest stage is not a sign that something is wrong with them. It is the nervous system adjusting to a fundamentally different landscape. I want to offer you a different framing for the discomfort of this stage. The quiet is not an absence, it is an invitation. It is quite possibly the first serious invitation you have had in a long time to find out who you are now. Not who you were before children came, not who you are in your role as their mother, who you are now in this chapter, at this age, with what you know and what you have lived through. That is not a small thing. Most women never get asked that question with this space to answer it. And the women who use this stage well, who do not just wait for it to feel better, but actively engage with what it is asking, describe something very specific. They describe waking up in the morning with a thought about themselves rather than immediately about someone else. They describe making decisions, small and large, from what they actually want rather than from what their role required of them. They describe saying yes to things with genuine enthusiasm and no with genuine confidence. They describe knowing what they want for the first time in years, not because they became different people, but because they stopped deferring themselves and started building something that was genuinely theirs. That is available to you. But it starts with taking this stage seriously as an invitation rather than just a loss. I want to be honest about what happens if you just wait. Some women do not get through the emptiness stage by waiting. The discomfort fades and life fills up again. They carry on. But carrying on without addressing the question this stage was asking means arriving at 60, 65, or 70, still not knowing what they want, still defaulting to everyone else's needs, still shrinking themselves to keep the peace, still saying yes when they mean no, still organizing their identity around being needed rather than being themselves. If you have been doing that for decades, it becomes harder to change, not because it's impossible, but because the habit is deeper. This stage is an opening, not the only opening, but it's a real one, and openings are worth something. So, if this has landed somewhere real today, I want you to know that the discomfort of this stage does not mean you are doing it wrong. It means it's a real threshold, and that is worth something. A cuppa and a chat is a free conversation with me, a low risk way to find out whether working together is the right fit for where you are right now. Book yours at happyacoach.com/chat. You do not have to decide today, but if the quiet of this stage has been surfacing something you have been ignoring, you do not need to ignore it any longer. Otherwise, I will see you next week when the next episode will be released on Wednesday. Until then, take care of you.